Hi, this is Chris Rubio. I have a great new show on the NGBN network called Decades. This show is about bringing people together that normally would not be together. We're going to have men in their 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, and even 20s. And we're going to talk about topics that normally you would never, ever discuss out in public or with people maybe you like or dislike. We're going to hit the topics head on. We're going to go full speed at them, and we're going to agree to disagree. Sometimes we'll agree. Most of the times we will not agree. Let me bring you my co-host first. His name is Ed McAndrew, not McAndrews. Welcome, Ed.
Hey, Rubio. Glad to be back. Excited about episode number 2. I know the panel's ready to get started, so why don't we bring them on out?
Here we go. Representing our 60s is Bill Geiser. Resides in Tampa, Florida, a serial entrepreneur and innovator of wearable tech. He has 2 outstanding sons. Welcome, Bill.
Hey, guys. Glad to be here.
Fantastic. Representing our 50s is Jim. Some call him James Gingrich. He resides in Idaho. He's a cybersecurity consultant, and he loves the outdoors. Welcome, James.
Good evening, gents.
Representing our 40s, from Los Angeles, California, born and raised, UCLA grad, go Bruins, and he's an educator. Give it up for Jimmy McElroy.
Hello, everyone. How you doing?
Representing our 30s, he resides in Philadelphia, an entrepreneurial spirit. I'm not sure what that is, but we're going to go with it. Works in real estate and small business finance at a tech startup and community involvement. Give it up for Joe Nolan.
What's up, jabronis? Glad to be back.
And representing our 20s as a student athlete at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo from Orange County, California. Hobbies include barbecuing, ping pong, and hiking. Give it up for Chris Rubio.
Howdy.
All right, guys, so let's just jump right into this. Our topic for episode 2 is domestic versus international spending. I think this is a real hot topic, just basically what's happened in the past couple of weeks. Well, you're just starting with East Palestine, Ohio, where you've had this major issue of a train wreck, and is there toxic waste, is there not? And a lot of people in America are saying, hey, let's spend some money there, let's clean it up. And then it seems that the powers that be are saying, yeah, that's good, but let's do another, say, 10 to 15 billion and Ukraine. And to me, it's almost a basic concept. Like, let's look at it like third graders would look at it. So Ed, can you pull up image 1 for me? And I think this will clear it up for everybody. If the government has enough money to send to foreign countries, then the government is taking too much money from taxpayers. And that's going to break it down to the most elementary level possible. But I want to know what you think about this. Let's go with Jimmy Mack right on top.
I totally agree with that. But I feel that we should get something for the taxes that we pay. Free transportation, something that we can all benefit from. I mean, I look at Canada, they pay 15% taxes, everyone, and they get certain goods and services for free. Going to the hospital, they get that taken care of. Basic travel around the city, they get that taken care of. So, I mean, I feel that our government, they're going to collect our taxes. They should be bailing out the common man for some of the most everyday mundane things that we do.
Okay, Joe Nolan, I feel that you're going to be in on this. What's your top thought?
It's a false dichotomy. I think that people are people and spending is spending. Artificial constructs exist called borders that create countries. I think that if you look at things like defense spending, even though it may be going abroad, all the spending is actually done in the United States to American companies. So we're actually stimulating American jobs. But beyond that, corporate greed is really privatization of public utilities is really breaking down and causing people to be upset about the lack of investment in infrastructure and the things that allow us to be a great country. But I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah, and I get that we're spending money domestically, but then it seems like we're spending money domestically, but then we're sending it out internationally. Bill Geiser, what is your thoughts on this topic?
I think there's 2 things that really piss people off on this topic. I think number 1 is instability. That's both domestic and international. Everyone wants things to get better here and abroad, but you know what? We'll settle for things just not getting any worse. And right now, it feels like the whole world's falling apart. Domestically, you got crime out of control. You got a border that's not protected. You got a rampant drug crisis. Our infrastructure's falling apart. it just goes on. And on the international side, you know, it feels like we're getting ready to enter World War III, and the Wuhan virus killed 7 million people worldwide. No one's doing anything about it. So we look weak, in my opinion. And when we look weak, the world preys on us. It happens in sports. It happens in business. I think our instability right now is driving us nuts. And the other thing is hypocrisy. I don't worry so much about we've sent $100 billion to the Ukraine versus East Palestine. What I look at is, if Ukraine's border is so damn important, why isn't ours? Why aren't we doing something about that? That's the hypocrisy I can't stand.
Yeah, I mean that one's hard not to swallow and just think, okay, we're spending money on their border, but what about our border? And you can say, oh, it is secure. It's obviously not. Jim, what's your thoughts, Gingrich?
I look at things through the lens of a business. I've owned my own business for almost 30 years, and you have to invest in your business. You have to invest in yourself first. That's literal and figurative. I got to make sure I have enough money to pay for my business needs, for the contractors that work for me. And then I can go out and see where I want to donate, who I want to help in the community. We don't have any accountability on that ledger, right? It could go, we don't know where it's going. In fact, I think I sent Ed a clip on it, but if we are given money, we need to know where it goes. Us as individuals who own business or work, we have to account for every dime we have. The federal government makes sure they nickel and dime us for everything. So if we're going to give money, we want to know it's spent right, not going to an autocrat or oligarch somewhere.
I can't agree more. The whole thing is, yes, I understand we're the big bad USA and we've got all this money allegedly, and we've got all this power allegedly. And it's one of those things that, yes, we should go help out the little brother. I have no problem helping out little brother, but I want to know what little brother is using the money for. That's what I want. Cruz, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think whatever reason you and I think alike. Kind of in the same realm of that. I think, yeah, I mean, as Americans, we have to realize that there is a certain privilege to being an American, and one of it is having national security and the ability to give out our national security to other countries, but at what cost? It's important to note that and see how much are we willing to give out. And I think at some point throughout these past couple of years, or at least the past year, when it comes to Ukraine, I think we've kind of stepped over that line a little bit.
Jimmy Mack, have we stepped over the line?
Yeah, I think we have. I mean, we look at it here, like we talk about foreign spending. What about domestic spending? Homeless has increased in the United States by tenfold. So what are we doing for them? You know, that's a danger. That's a danger when it comes to disease and the danger that comes to crime. As somebody said, crime is running rampant. I mean, if people don't have nothing, what you think they'll do? They're going to take. They can't spend nothing. I think that we too busy here in the United States. A lot of times when we talk about wages for people or the spending that we're doing on healthcare and education and stuff like that, we're lacking on that. But the first time one of the other countries, they're asking for aid to stop a foreign invader, we open up the checkbook big time. I mean, a lot of people are just basically the working poor here, and we don't have enough. We have programs, but we don't put enough in these programs to help out the Americans, the people that should be mattering the most to Americans, you know, helping us out. You know, a lot of us have gone into debt getting education. A lot of us have gone in debt opening up businesses or trying to do something for themselves. Like they say, pull yourself up by your bootstrap, but yet we don't have enough programs that's helping out Americans pull themselves up by the bootstrap. As soon as Ukraine happens, we're sending a bunch of money. East Palestine, we're going to just send somebody out as a figurehead to look over and survey. No, let's get in there and start cleaning up, start spending the money to clean it up, clean up the roads, fix our infrastructure, because, you know, people are getting car damage because the roads aren't good or they can't get certain places. You know, look what happened with the airlines. People couldn't even travel, spending all this money and couldn't travel. So there's a lot of things that we should be doing to build ourselves up domestically first before we start looking outwards and spending all this money.
Bill Geisler, you're chomping at the bit. What do you want to say? I can see you salivating over there.
You know, I don't know if it's a question that we're not spending enough money. It seems like we're spending money like drunken sailors right now. I don't think we're spending it smart. I think there's a combination of weak leadership. I question whether the agenda we are pursuing both domestically and internationally are really consistent with our historical values. And the last thing is just pure execution. We don't seem to do things very well these days for whatever reason, whether it's, pulling our troops out of Afghanistan or whether it's fixing our rail lines in the U.S. Every way we turn, we're screwing something up. So I don't think it's money. I think we just got to do a better job of what we're trying to do. And ultimately that means you need good leadership. And I don't think we have it.
We're going to go to the first commercial on that one. Ed, take us home.
Hello, my name's Ian Hill. And when I'm not training to be the oldest man to play NCAA Division I college football, I'm the CEO of NGBN TV. Our mission's pretty simple. Educate, equip, entertain, support, and inspire men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. It's a one-stop shop for all that a man in his middle ages needs to be his best. So once you come and join us, come and be a part of NGBN TV. Now back to our show.
Welcome back to Decades, episode 2. We're here with Bill Geiser, James Gingrich, Jimmy Mack, Joe Nolan, Chris Rubio, and Ed McAndrew, not McAndrews. Ed, go back to what Bill was saying about pure execution. Joe Nolan, is that the big issue here? Are we spending money? Are we spending enough money? And is it just going in the wrong spot, or is it just floating away?
You know what, Rubio? I want to, before I answer, see if I could ask Ed to throw the clip that I sent in for today. I just want to use that to frame my next point.
It's been nearly 1 year now since the Russian Federation invaded Ukraine and sparked the biggest war seen in Europe since 1945. Over the past 12 months of this raging conflict, Europe has experienced more historical tremors than it had in decades beforehand. The entire world order and the way of life for hundreds of millions of people have been shuffled around in unprecedented ways. And never before has such a major conflict in human history been so thoroughly documented by satellites above. Thousands of images of the war and its consequences have been taken by commercial satellites over these past 12 months. And compiling all of them together from beginning to the present illustrates in an unprecedented way how the past 12 months have changed Ukraine, Russia, and the rest of the world forever.
I believe that there's 3 ways to think about the rest of humanity. I don't believe in good and evil. I believe in selfish and altruistic. There's people that only care about themselves. There's people that only care about themselves and their friends. And there's people that care about everyone. I think right now we are going through the biggest humanitarian man-made crisis in 80 years. We have a dictator that is trying to overthrow a democratic country, and we are supposed to stand with democracy. The biggest things we've done is provide military equipment. We're not taking $100 billion on a pallet and dropping it off in Kyiv for them to spend. We're sending them HIMARS. We're sending them ammunition. We're sending them winter gear. Do you know where the HIMARS system is made? The surface-to-surface missiles, the long-range artillery that's allowed Ukraine to take back half of the country that was stolen from them? Camden, Arkansas. What the fuck are we talking about? Like, these overseas spending is domestic spending. These are stimulating hundreds of thousands of jobs, which takes me to my second point, Ed, if you could bring up the figure I brought over, which shows where most defense spending is spent by state. Is it really that surprising that the top 5 are where most of our affluent politicians come from? No. All these fucking lobbyists are just throwing money and an unaccountable budget into these states to create jobs. So my point is, I believe in all of humanity. I work for a tech startup called Janover Inc. We're fully diffuse. Our tech team was based in Kyiv. We opened our Kyiv office February 1st of 2021. Seva had to flee to the west and decided not to cross the border. Nikita had to bribe a border guard and take 3 days to swim across a river into Poland, and then now he's a refugee. If he comes back to the United States or to Ukraine, he goes directly to jail. That is a complete human creation, this humanitarian catastrophe. I have absolutely not a problem for every cent of that taxpayer dollar going to this ammunition being used to help the Ukrainians defend their own territory with the weapons they need versus us waste or risk a drop of American blood, but give them the ability to defend themselves. I think that this is something that is easy to demagogue, but is hard to actually dispute when you look at the facts. But that being said, we are also need to completely reinvest in America. We just passed $1 trillion infrastructure bill that is supposed to reinvigorate everything that we're doing, from roads to rails to airplanes. But even the Army Corps of Engineers said we still need another $1.7 billion to cure the deferred maintenance. So while there may be some truth that we aren't spending enough at home, I completely agree with that. You know, I would much rather have these HIMARS systems go into Ukraine to have them have a chance to defend their country than have them just sit in Arkansas doing nothing.
Okay, hold on. Number one, I was almost tempted to just let you keep talking because you kept contradicting yourself in my head.
Yeah.
I really felt like at some point you were just keep arguing with yourself. You're like the guy punching yourself, like I can't remember the script comic thing I was looking at. I'm gonna go James Gingrich, go, because you were just you're next to Bob and Hurton.
I really disagree. One, it's still tax money, and I'll make a quick comment on the infrastructure bill. They're going to build 500,000 charging stations, which rely 60% on fossil fuels. So that shit's all funny money. But here's a truth bomb. The U.S. isn't some righteous country that wants to help everybody become democratic. One, we know that there's not enough natural resources for everybody to live like us. Everything we've been involved in, there's an upside for us. And if we haven't learned that proxy wars don't work, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Central America, then we haven't learned a goddamn thing. We're throwing our money away for nothing. The CIA will go into these countries. They don't have the money to fight, Group A. So Group B says, hey, we'll give you some land. And then we take that land, get them hooked on American arms, and then they run out and they need more. So we give them more land. And I'm not making that up. It's documented all over. So we run these proxy wars by taking things from these countries. We don't give a shit if they're democratic. And I'm not sure why we care. What's going on in Ukraine is horrible, but we're the furthest away from that. You have all of Europe right there. They even have other ex-Russian states, Latvia, Estonia. These people need to get involved. Nobody's ever bought their freedom by having other people fight their war.
Cruz, what is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, kind of like meeting in the middle between those two of those, like where Joe went. I think it's kind of important to kind of ask, like, why care all of a sudden about humanitarian crisis, as if, there's not Muslim concentration camps going on throughout China, as if the entire population of North Korea is not under, civil unrest consistently. It's like, why give a shit now to this Western European country that, throughout my entire lifetime, I'm only 21, but Ukraine never came up at all, so why care about them now all of a sudden when the rest of the world is, you're not going to make everybody happy, is my thing. But yeah.
I think that's a good point. Where do we draw the line of, okay, this country needs our help, okay, but this country needs our help, we'll put them on the back burner. There has to be an underlying theme here of something. There's something fishy about this entire thing. And if you pull up my number two, Ed, you can look at the way the media and everyone looked at the Ukraine before. Before Ukraine crisis, you see on the blue side where everything is, negative this. And then after Ukraine, all of a sudden, everything switched. It's like they got their talking points and everyone's like, this is the greatest place ever. And you're like, weren't you guys just calling these guys Nazis like literally 5 years ago? And now all of a sudden you have this big issue of, we have to save them. And going back to Bill Geiser's original point is they're saying that they're not saying what the end point is. Are we just giving, blank checks until it's over? And then what does that mean? Does that mean Putin, stops? Because he's at the point now, if he loses, they're going to kill him. Okay. Russia will kill him. So I don't see this guy. He doesn't have a foot to stand on here. But Jimmy Mack, you're kind of looking a bit of serious here. What do you got?
Well, I just want to talk with Joe real fast about what he's saying. Like, yeah, we built this stuff in America. We have all these contractors, but that stuff not going to the workers, really. The workers aren't making big time money. Those are people, the executives and the lobbyists, like you said, they're skimming off the top. Politicians skimming off the top. They're spending all this money, but it ain't going to the workers. I'm quite sure those workers, if you went to those factories and talked to them, they got some needs that they need to support their families and things like that. So yeah, they are building stuff in the United States, but once again, we are shipping that stuff out. So it's not like the Americans are really using that stuff. And he said no American blood has been spilled. We have 12 American people who have been killed in this war so far that have gone over there to do voluntary work, or maybe they just mercenaries looking for a fix to go out and shoot at somebody. But when it comes to us dealing with the Ukraine, I know for one, I know Ukraine used to be they used to say Ukrainian women love black men. So I'm invested in this, because if I ever have to if my wife ever leave me, I'm going to the Ukraine to find me a woman that loves black men. So I know that Ukraine was a place where people were starting to travel and get in there, and I'm quite sure we're getting American businesses to invest. I mean, the whole thing with Hunter Biden, am I saying his name right? Hunter Biden. The whole stuff that happened in the Ukraine. So there is investment by the United States in the Ukraine. That's why we're there, you know, supporting Ukraine. And you see with like of other countries, I mean, like you said, the North Koreans, like Cruz said, North Koreans just live terribly. It's the only country at night that's not lit up. But I also believe that the monkeys from the Wizard of Oz come from the Ukraine as well. So I mean, from North Korea. So I'm quite sure you're right on that. So I mean, I just think that when we start talking about this, like Cruz said, you got to meet in the middle. But I still believe that we should care more about our people, because a lot of our people are still suffering here, that we should have a war on poverty, a war on getting things right for our own people. So I feel that when we did the bailouts in 2008, we should have bailed out some people. Forget these banks. People are still in debt. The banks got out of debt, but the people are still in debt. And they got money, and we still got to pay them out of our debt. So I believe there's a lot of things that we have mishandled. Like Bill said, it's the execution. If we're going to be doing stuff in the country, you got to have better execution. Like you said, poor leadership. I mean, I think our democracy is very broken when it comes to leadership.
Bill Geiser, go ahead. Bill's frozen. Okay, Bill had his hand up. We'll come back to Bill right after this commercial.
Whatever you're trying to do with your life, whether you're trying to grow or heal something or get to that next level, it all comes back to your mind and understanding that your mind and your nervous system create a system. So I'm Carlin Fisher. I'm a mind sculpting consultant and speaker. I have a 90-day course I'd love to share with you in the link. Take care.
All right, we're back. Bill, did you have your thought before you froze? Can Bill hear us, or is he still frozen?
He's moving.
All right. Yeah, he is moving. All right. Let me just break it down the way I see it, because this is the part that, you know, kind of makes me just confused. I look at this whole thing as, okay, say we have a house, okay, and our neighborhood is decent and we have a nice community, but we start to notice that this neighbor's house needs work, this neighbor's house needs work, this neighbor's house needs work, and it's all in our little 5-minute community. Then we all of a sudden see our neighbor that's probably, let's say, 100 miles away. We kind of know of them, we heard of them, and we're going to start, they're having some trouble with their neighbor. Let's go fix their wall. Let's go fix their house. When all of a sudden our neighbors are still not fixed. Like we said, we've got veterans that are homeless. We've got just random people that are homeless. We've got a border that's a sieve. I need someone to explain it to me of how is this correct that we're not cleaning up our own neighborhood, but we're helping the town from 100 miles away. That's what I don't understand. Joe, can you help me understand that?
Well, I can try.
Please do.
I think the biggest thing is that people don't want to fix what's around us. You know, you try to say we should have universal health care,
Joe,
and
Joe,
it all of a sudden
Joe,
becomes something
Joe,
that is impossible.
Who doesn't want to fix what's around us?
All right, so let me give a concrete example, right? There's a big problem about transportation and access to transportation. Study after study shows it's not education that is the best predictor of transitory wealth, the ability to move up and down the social ladder. It's access to transportation, reliable transportation, right? So if you look in places that have transportation like Philadelphia, like New York City, like actually that's pretty much everywhere I can think of that has like good in-place transportation. You can't build density near them. You can't build density because of NIMBYism, not in my backyard. And it's literally what you're describing. The idea that my house is already the nicest on the block. Why should I care what anyone else's is as long as mine doesn't degrade? And what I would posit to you is that borders and our ability to care about people are arbitrary. They're artificial, right? Mm-hmm. Not just the United States, the states inside the states, but also international borders. Like, the fact of where you're born pretty much predicts what you're going to be in your lifetime, what you're going to be able to do. I think when we're talking about spending money domestically, there's clear things we can do. Here in Philadelphia, we have $800 million cash on our balance sheet right now. First time in 50 years we've had cash. We're going through a huge election. 12 out of 17 council seats are up for grabs and the mayor's up for grabs. Everyone is just saying they're going to keep this money to fill budget gaps as opposed to make once in a generation investments into the city to set up the next generation. You know, we can create the Roosevelt Boulevard subway. We could create light rail. We could create a new interconnected metro area that would better salute everyone. But you can't do it because there isn't the money, the political leadership, or the will to listen to what people want and be able to guide us forward. You know, as much as it might be crass to say, something like defense spending is easy. $816 billion in the Pentagon budget this year. Every penny of it gets spent domestically. The top five are
real, you know what? It's real
Raytheon,
easy.
Boeing, Northrop, and General Dynamics. Those are all domestic companies. They have average salaries between $50,000 and $450,000. They're great middle class to upper middle class jobs. And it's real easy to just throw money at it. It's a lot harder to throw money at things that are harder, like transit.
Okay, Bill Geiser, go ahead.
Yeah.
It's really easy to throw money at defense contractor businesses when the board of directors are loaded with a bunch of former generals. That's too fucking cozy, Joe. And you know what? It's just like big pharma. How about you know what I find interesting is we've had one huge crisis after another. And you know what's in common? The board of directors of big pharma and big defense are all a bunch of former government bureaucrats lining their goddamn pockets for who knows what. So don't give me this, it's about jobs. Hey, defense contractors, their business is to make weapons to kill people. So those are good paying jobs, right? Come on, we can do better than that.
And then didn't Ukraine basically start like a month after the Afghanistan war ended? I think it was very, very close to. So it was like literally the Afghanistan war ended. We pulled out, which that was a whole, basically shit show. And then we just happened to start this. And like you said, we're just lining pockets left and right, left and right, left and right. I think the main issue that I'm hearing here is, yes, we agree that we should spend money. I'm hearing that we should spend money a little bit more, let's quote unquote, locally. Joe, you said we don't want to spend locally. You never, unless I missed it, I didn't hear who didn't want to spend it.
I'm sorry. So yeah, for example, the SEPTA is currently doing a study for an expansion of railway line. Our board of directors for SEPTA, Southeast Pennsylvania Transportation Authority, is mostly made up of people from the suburbs. They just signed a $10 billion contract to extend light rail out to King of Prussia Mall, which has an estimated ridership of 10,000 riders a day, as opposed to expanding the Roosevelt Subway Boulevard, which wasn't even in the study that they were proposing, which would have 100,000 a day. Now, that's because the SEPTA board is made up of people that don't live in Philadelphia, and there was no political leadership in the city that was pushing it. The political leadership in the city has been saying, we can't afford it, we can't do it, there's no interest in it, it would be too disruptive. And it's been a grassroots movement for this specific subway line to say, hey, as a city, we haven't extended our transit in 50 years. In fact, we've gone backwards. We've ripped out trolleys, we've cut bus service, we've reduced daily service for our riders, we've closed schools, we've closed swimming pools. And at the same time, we got 800 million on our balance sheet, just waiting to be spent. And it's all because people, it's a lot easier. I think everything we're all saying comes down to one simple fact. There's one way to say no, and there's infinite ways to say yes. And it's really hard for everyone to agree on one way to say yes.
I could say yes. Jim, go.
I have to poke at Joe a little bit. Number one, he lives in that bubble of people that I've seen forever and concentrations in big cities. There's a lot of people like me who don't want to live in that shit. And I don't need the government, state, federal, local to pay for transportation. I have a car. That indoctrination of we have to have these things for everybody is all about pushing people into one area so they can more easily mind fuck everybody, because the herd mentality works. That psychology is proven. I don't know where you're reading that your well-to-do has to do with your transportation. Most people where I live have big houses, shops. They live very well on modest to decent incomes and affordable housing. You don't get that in LA. You don't get that in Philadelphia. The other thing I'll say, and Jimmy Mack touched on it, we have over 500,000, it's a lot more now, homeless. We got 1 in 8 kids starving. We have 150 fentanyl deaths a day. We have roughly 17 veterans committing suicide every day, and we have an attack on our constitutional rights. We have to figure out how to spend better, and I like to offer solutions. Maybe when we vote for giving aid, we make it a supermajority. Then it takes it tougher to get through and makes people come up with something that will work. You know, not just we won by 1 point. Make it a super majority doesn't have to be 2/3. It could be more. Make it 75%, but do something where people have to think about it, because this country was founded on the fact that people are sick of paying taxes to a government, and their solution is always more taxes. And then the execution, as Bill and Jimmy Mack said, is awful. So it just gets in this circle that goes around and around.
Ed, take us to commercial. That was a good stop right there. All right, welcome back to Decades. My name is Chris Rubio, host of this fantastic show. You've got Jimmy Mack in their 40s, James Gingrich in our 50s, Joe Nolan in our 30s, Cruz Rubio in our 20s, Bill Geiser in our 60s, and our super co-host / producer, Ed McAndrew, not McAndrews. So we were just talking. What I'm thinking now is this. Okay, we've talked about the money, but it keeps coming back to a main point that we're all trying to hit, but we're not hitting, is that the top officials just do whatever they want. There's no answering. So like, oh yeah, we're going to spend all this money. No, you're not. Yeah, we are. Who's going to stop us? And I think that is the big problem, where I don't know if we keep electing people or they just keep happening to get into office, or they're up on boards or doing whatever. But that, Bill Geiser, you've been around the longest. Is that the main issue? I mean, is there a way out of this is what I'm asking.
You know, it's a tough problem. I mean, you know, if you take a look at our lives, the lives of the businesses we work in, universities, our government, the world is highly interconnected. It's like a big Jenga game, and it's fragile. I mean, one thing changes and geez, you got this big disaster, or you've got a huge war. So I don't want to pretend like I know all the answers. It's complicated. We can't withdraw from the international scene. We play too big a role, and our world depends on a lot of things we get from other countries. Yeah. I'm talking about
huge
minerals. Problem. It's an enormous problem, and you know what? It's never going to go away. I mean, there's certain things that you have to get from certain countries. It's you know, where you get certain minerals and so on that we use to build batteries and whatever it is. So we've got to figure out, how do we operate effectively as a good citizen of the world on an international stage and do the right thing, you know, for our citizens. And it's a hard job. That's why I think when we go through these chaotic times, it's leaders. You got to hold your leaders accountable. They're the ones that are calling the shots on this stuff. And if it's not working out, you got to replace them.
Okay, so let me go to Jimmy Mack, and then I'm going to go to Cruz. How do we replace the leaders? It feels to me like it's just impossible. It's just like this almost this blob that just keeps going and going and going, and you have one bad leader, and then just another one comes in. It's like New York was going down in the toilets with whatever his name was, Cuomo, and then they just throw in Kathy Hochul, and it's the same exact thing. I mean, like Chicago just got rid of Lightfoot, but who knows what they're going to bring in next? And is it impossible to get the bad leaders out now?
Well, the main thing when it comes to leadership is the people that are in charge, their whole thing is to maintain that power. So their next moves is always about maintaining their power. With our country, our biggest problem, we see it all the time, is Republicans and Democrats. We got to get rid of that two-party system, because they're tearing us apart.
Yes.
They kill us with the things that they're infighting. Now the Republican Party is infighting with itself. The Democratic Party infights with itself. Get rid of them. Let's just go out there and say, hey, let's find the most qualified candidates that we can get. And let's do.
Okay,
I'd opt for just using the phone book and randomly picking.
No.
Jimmy Mack, I agree with you. Jimmy Mack, I agree with you, but is that impossible with the amount of money that both parties bring?
It's impossible right now, but it comes to how do you get movements going? It's the people. It's getting out there, getting information, because we know there are good leaders out there that care about the people. Like I think it was Joe or Cruz that said, people who care about the world, that cares about everybody. We got to find those people, because the people that we got now, they don't care about the world. They care about maintaining their power, maintaining their power for their parties, and then messing up the other party when they get in charge. There's a lot of things that haven't been moved or done right because they're too busy infighting. I shouldn't have to turn on the news and my Congress is fighting with each other. Are we yelling at the president? Are we going crazy with this? That's how we got to get rid of it. Then we'll find better people that can spend this money in the right areas worldwide, not just here domestically, but internationally too, that will make the world a safer place, a better place for all.
Cruz, leaning on what Jimmy Mack just said, do you believe that what he said of we need to find a leader that loves the world? Would you agree with that, or would you rather have a leader that loves America?
I mean, I think it would be great to have a leader that loves both at the end of the day. But overall, I just don't think, as of right now, the government's very reliable in any sense. I think most government leaders tend to be corrupt, and regardless of it all, it's a money-hungry scheme. I mean, that unfortunately we just bought into. I think that on both sides of it, Democrats, Republicans, I think a lot of it, money talks, and whatever money donors they're going to be taking from, like, let's say there's just a hypothetical, let's say there's a bill or something that gets passed, and the Republicans are going to vote one way on it, and let's say the bill's about banning all, fast food chains. I guarantee you, whatever side's going to take more money from the fast food chains is more likely to get that bill passed, because money talks at the end of the day. So it doesn't matter, which side they're a part of, what it is, money talks, and whatever side gets more money is going to keep winning.
Jim Gingrich, you're pretty much, we'll say, the most libertarian of the group here. Is there a way to fix this?
I mean, I kind of said maybe supermajority vote might help, but it's going to take a long time. It's not going to be easy. Getting rid of the parties would be great, but then what? I think the way to fix it is look in the mirror. Somebody said it earlier about hypocrisy. Nobody I know, and I know a lot of smart, nice people and met new people here. Nobody I know is in politics. Why? Because they know it's a shit show. And so
Exactly.
We can look at ourselves and go, we're sitting here saying they suck, but how many of us are engaged?
I couldn't agree with you more, Jimmy Mack. If someone asked me to run for office, I say, fuck no. I'd much rather have someone working for me in office than run for it. It seems like a miserable job. But I think a part of that is because we broke the system. If you want to hear what my view on what happened, if you look in the Constitution as it was written, you were supposed to have so many people per representative. Originally, it was 35,000 people per representative in the House of Representatives. I'm just going to talk about the House as one concrete example. In 1800, there was 105 seats in the House. In 1929, when there was 120 million people living in America, there was 435 seats in the House. In 2023, when there's 350 million people in America, there's 435 seats in the House. In 1929, they passed the Apportionment Act because they couldn't agree how to add seats fairly, because people were afraid of losing their power. And when the politicians don't have to play by a rule book, they get to write it. They write the rule book to coagulate power around themselves. I believe the simplest thing to do to break the party's hold on power and to break the hold on this completely broken system, where instead of 1 for 35,000, today it's 1 for 770,000 people that a House rep represents. That means it went from being Jimmy Mack down the street to Rubio on the other side of the world that I'll never meet. You can't hold people accountable if you don't know who they are. So what ends up happening is you just race to the lowest denominator. You try to get smart people to not vote, and you try to get a small 20 to 25% group of people to come out to every election with national issues instead of local. I think if you were to do something like increase the number of House reps to, and this is actually something I thought about, half of the smallest population. So right now, Wyoming has 300,000 people. So if you said each state gets at least 2 reps, that's 150,000 people. All of a sudden, there's 1,000 representatives in the House of Representatives, so that you are able to bring up these local issues, and you're not able to, as a national party, hold sway over all these elections because you have the biggest checkbook. So I think you gotta subdivide the power more, because right now it's too coagulated and too few people.
On that note, Ed, take us to our last commercial, please. We'll come back with our final segment.
Hey guys, I'm Brian Jodis with Pick Up the Six Productions. Join us every week as we share stories with you about people who have gone above and beyond through service, purpose, and impact. We're talking with incredible people, including special operators like Navy SEALs, Green Berets, and combat controllers. We also get to know community leaders, endurance athletes, and people that will inspire you. I'm grateful to be part of this growing movement at ngbn.tv with you, and I look forward to seeing you at Pick Up the Six.
Welcome back to Decades. This is the final segment. I'm the host, Chris Rubio. We've got Jimmy Mack representing our 40s, Cruz Rubio our 20s, Bill Geiser our 60s, Joe Nolan our 30s, and James Gingrich our 50s. And of course, our fantastic co-host / executive director. I'm just going to give you a new title every time, Ed.
Excellent. I like it.
Yeah. Keyboard warrior over there. He's doing all the ins and outs, the X's and O's, whatever. We've been talking about domestic versus international spending. For this final segment, I want everyone to go around with a 25-second limit, Joe. 25-second limit of just a quick wrap up. We're going to start with Cruz. We'll go youngest to oldest.
Am I good to go?
You're ready, Danny.
My bad. Yeah, I would say just appreciate everything. It's important to note that we, as Americans, we are in a position of appreciation where we can understand that what we have is super great and it's important to help others out, but at the same time, there needs to be a limit.
Joe?
Man, it's hard to summarize everything. I think in general, I'll just reiterate what I said. You know, you can either care about yourself, you can care about the people around you, or you can care about everyone. I think we all fluctuate between those 3 every day, and we should all strive to be more towards everyone.
James? Or no, excuse me, Jimmy Mack.
I'm just going to throw this number out here. $96,371. That's how much the average American is in debt. And I think that in order to make a better country, a better place for us to be able to be, equal, we got to help those people relieve that debt. A lot of people can't, and they will never will. They'll die in debt. So I think the best way to change everything, one, is to change people's economic situations so they can have more time to be a part of the political system instead of having a very few, like 20%.
That's good. James?
I'm going to stick with my opening too. We have to take care of ourselves first. You got to pay yourself. We have to fix our internal problems, and then we can be Team American, help the rest of the world. Right now, we're turning out beta males, and the international theater is still full of wolves and alphas. So we have to take care of ourselves. We're looking weak right now.
Bill Geiser, and then I'll wrap it up.
I kind of agree with what James just said. I think how we perform domestically really determines how the world looks at us. And just as I had said before, if you appear to be weak, the predators prey on you. And the predators are preying on us right now because we look weak. We got to fix that.
I'm going to end it with this. So I have this, 36, 42 ounce cup, whatever it is, with this beautiful image on it. Say this is 100%. This is 100% caring. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do is say it's filled with 100% caring water. I'm going to water my family first. Okay. And I'm probably going to be a pretty damn chunk of the caring because they're my family. And then I'm going to do my friends. And then I'm going to do my neighbors and my community. Whatever I have left, okay, that is what I want to sprinkle out to the world. Is that selfish? 1,000,000,000% it is. Okay. But if I can't take care of myself, I can't take care of others. And so if I'm using this much on myself and saving this much for the others are the animals are going to run the circles. And that's what we cannot have. Guys, you did a fantastic job. Here's a cheers to all of us. We had a nice
Cheers.
discussion. Ed, you're allowed to speak now. Who won?
Well, I think I'm going to give it to Mr. Geyser today because he
Ooh.
came back and
What the hell?
he I couldn't give
Good
it
job,
to
Bill.
Joe. Yeah.
And you know what? You guys kept me up past my bedtime too, so I'm on.
We apologize. Once again, thank you all for watching Decades on NGBN. You can find us on the NGBN YouTube channel and also on the Decades YouTube channel. And of course, we'll be on social media. Make sure you guys share, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Everyone, have a great time. We'll
Right.
see you next week.
All right,
See you
everybody.
guys. Have a good one.